The smell of burning metal hung in the dead air of the junkyard planet. David wiped grease from his hands and looked at the crashed ship half buried in the dirt. Most salvagers had already picked it clean, but David knew better. The best parts were always hidden in places nobody wanted to look. He climbed through a broken window and dropped into darkness. His flashlight cut through the dust and showed rows of empty cargo holds. Someone had stripped everything valuable weeks ago. But David kept walking. He had learned long ago that patience was the best tool an inventor could have. Then he heard it. A small sound, like a wounded animal trying to breathe. David followed the sound to a sealed door at the back of the ship. The lock was melted, probably from the crash. He forced it open with a metal bar and stepped inside. What he found made his heart stop. That a young girl lay chained to the wall. But she was not human. Her skin was covered in dark green scales that caught his flashlight like broken glass. Small wings folded against her back, and a thin tail curled around her legs. She looked maybe 12 or 13 years old in human terms. Her eyes were closed, and her breathing was weak. A dragonkin. David had heard stories about them. Most species in the galaxy called them monsters. Class: 5 predators. Dangerous beasts that should be killed on sight. But this was no monster. This was a child, starving and alone. David moved slowly toward her. The chains on her wrists and ankles were too tight, cutting into her scales. A thick collar around her neck made a soft buzzing sound every few seconds. Each time it buzzed, the girl's body shook with pain. A shock collar. They were torturing her even while she was dying. David felt anger rise in his chest. He had seen many terrible things in the galaxy, but nothing like this. He knelt beside her and touched her face gently. Her scales were cold. She was barely alive. Her eyes opened suddenly. They were golden, filled with fear and confusion. She tried to pull away from him, but she was too weak to move. "Easy," David said softly. "I am not going to hurt you." She opened her mouth, and a small flame flickered between her teeth. A warning. But the flame died almost instantly. She had no strength left. "You are safe now," David said. He pulled his tools from his bag and looked at the shock collar. The design was cruel but simple. If he cut the wrong wire, it would kill her. If he did nothing, she would die anyway. He worked carefully. His fingers moved with the skill of a man who had built machines his whole life. Sweat ran down his face as he traced each wire, each connection. The collar buzzed again, and the girl screamed weakly. "Almost there," David whispered. "Just hold on." He found the main power line and cut it. The collar clicked and fell open. The girl gasped and tears ran from her golden eyes. David removed the chains next. They fell to the floor with a heavy sound. The girl tried to stand but collapsed into his arms. She weighed almost nothing. "I have you," he said. "You are going to be okay." He carried her out of the crashed ship and into the pale sunlight of the junkyard. Other salvagers stopped working and stared at him. Their faces showed shock and fear. "David, what are you doing?" called Old Man Peters from his workshop. "That is a dragonkin. They will kill you in your sleep." "She is a child," David replied. "Someone left her to die. There is a reason for that. Those things are dangerous." David kept walking. He did not care what they thought. He had seen the fear in her eyes. He had felt how small and broken she was. Whatever the galaxy believed about her kind, this girl was no threat to anyone. He reached his workshop and laid her on his own bed. Her breathing was still weak, but color was slowly returning to her scales. He found clean water and some food paste that he hoped she could eat. Hours passed. David stayed beside her, watching for any change. He cleaned her wounds and covered her with a warm blanket. She was so young. How could anyone do this to a child? As the sun set outside his window, the girl opened her eyes again. This time, the fear was less. She looked at David with confusion. "Where?" she whispered. Her voice was rough and broken. "My home," David said. "You are safe." "What?" The question seemed to hurt her to ask. David did not understand at first. Then he realized what she meant. Why did he save her? Why did he help her when everyone else wanted her dead? "Because it was right," he said simply. The girl stared at him for a long moment. Then her eyes closed again, and she fell into a deep sleep. But this time, her breathing was easier. Her body was finally relaxing. David leaned back in his chair and let out a long breath. He had no idea what would happen next. He had no plan, no resources, nothing but a small workshop on a forgotten planet. But he knew one thing for certain. He would protect this child, no matter what the galaxy threw at them. Outside his window, David saw lights in the sky. Ships were entering orbit. Enforcement vessels. They were looking for something that he had a feeling he knew exactly what they wanted. 3 days passed before the girl spoke more than single words. She watched David from the bed like a wild animal waiting for the trap to close. Every time he moved suddenly, she flinched. Every time someone knocked on his door, her scales turned pale with fear. David did not push her. He went about his normal routine, building and fixing things at his workbench while she recovered. He talked to her in a calm voice, explaining what he was doing. He brought her food and water and let her eat alone when she wanted privacy. On the 4th day, she finally asked him a question. "What is your name?" David looked up from the broken engine he was repairing. "David, what is yours?" She was quiet for a long moment. "Ryla. They called me Ryla." "That is a nice name. How old are you, Ryla?" She shook her head. "I do not know. I stopped counting." The words hit David like a punch to his chest. She did not know her own age. She had stopped counting because the days in captivity meant nothing. He forced himself to stay calm. "Well, you are safe now. No more cages. No more chains." Ryla tilted her head. "You keep saying that. Safe. What does safe mean?" David put down his tools and walked to sit near her bed. Not too close. He did not want to scare her. Safe means no one will hurt you. No one will sell you or chain you. You can eat when you are hungry and sleep when you are tired. You are free. Free, she repeated. The words sounded strange in her mouth, like she was tasting something new. Over the next few days, Ryla grew stronger. She started walking around the workshop, looking at everything with wide golden eyes. She touched the machines and tools with her clawed fingers, gentle and curious. David noticed something interesting. She understood machines. When he explained how an engine worked, she nodded like she already knew. When he showed her a broken power cell, she pointed to the exact part that was damaged. "You have done this before," he said, surprised. Ryla shook her head. "No, but I can see how it should be. The pieces want to fit together. I just know where they go." David smiled. "That is a gift, Ryla. A very special gift." She looked at him with confusion. "Gift? My fire is the only thing anyone wanted from me. For killing. For burning. Your fire is part of you, and it is nothing to be ashamed of. But your mind is just as valuable. Maybe more." Ryla stared at him for a long time. Then something changed in her expression. A tiny crack in the wall she had built around herself. "Show me more," she said quietly. "Please." David began teaching her. He showed her his inventions, explained how they worked, and let her help him build new ones. She learned faster than anyone he had ever met. Her small claws were perfect for delicate work, and her fire breath could weld metal with incredible precision. But the most amazing discovery came when David tried to build her a new environmental suit. Dragonkin bodies worked differently than most species. They needed specific temperatures and air conditions to stay healthy. Standard equipment would not work. "What if we use my heat?" Ryla suggested one evening. David frowned. "What do you mean?" "I can control my body temperature. Very carefully. What if the suit used that heat for power? Then it would always have energy, and I would always be comfortable." David stared at her. The idea was brilliant. Simple but completely new. No one had ever thought to use a dragonkin's natural abilities as a power source instead of a weapon. "Ryla, that is genius." She blinked. "It is? Yes. We can build a symbiotic system. Your heat powers the suit, and the suit helps you regulate your temperature. It helps both of you." For the first time since David found her, Ryla smiled. It was small and uncertain, but it was real. They worked together for hours, designing the new system. David drew plans while Ryla suggested improvements. They talked and laughed, and slowly, the fear in her eyes began to fade. Late that night, Ryla sat by the window, looking at the stars. "David," she said quietly, "why do humans help strangers?" He thought about the question carefully. "Because we know what it feels like to need help. Long ago, humans were alone on a small planet, surrounded by dangers. We survived because we helped each other. Taking care of strangers became part of who we are." Ryla touched the glass with one claw. "My people were not like that. Or maybe we were, before the others came. I do not remember. Maybe you can be that way again. Starting now." She turned to look at him. Her golden eyes were shining with something new. Hope. A loud knock shook the door. David stood up quickly, his body tense. "David Chun," a cold voice called from outside. By authority of the Galactic Commerce Board, you are ordered to surrender the stolen Dragonkin property immediately. Failure to comply will result in your arrest. Ryla's scales turned white with terror. Her claws dug into the chair she was holding. David looked at her, then at the door. His jaw tightened. "Stay behind me," he said quietly. "I am not letting anyone take you." David opened his door to face 6 armed enforcers standing in the pale morning light. Their leader was a tall creature with gray skin and 4 eyes that showed no emotion. Behind him stood soldiers of different species, all carrying weapons that could kill a human in seconds. The salvage yard had gone silent. Workers stopped what they were doing and watched from a safe distance. Nobody wanted to get involved with galactic enforcers. David Chun, the gray-skinned officer, said, "You have property that belongs to the Vrin Trading Syndicate. Hand it over, and this will end peacefully." "She is not property," David replied. His voice was steady, but his heart was pounding. "She is a child." The officer made a sound that might have been a laugh. "Dragonkin are classified as non-sentient beasts. They have no rights under galactic law. The paperwork is very clear." He held up a data pad showing legal documents. David did not move. "I do not care about your paperwork. I care about doing what is right." "What is right?" The officer stepped closer. "Let me explain what is right, human. Dragonkin are dangerous predators. They breathe fire. They have claws that can tear through metal. Every galactic civilization agrees they must be controlled. The Vrin Syndicate paid good money for that beast. You stole their property. She was left to die in a crashed ship, chained and starving. If that is how your galaxy treats living beings, then your galaxy is sick." The officer's 4 eyes narrowed. "Your opinion does not matter. The law is the law. Give us the Dragonkin, or we will take it by force." David heard footsteps behind him. Ryla had come to the door. She was shaking with fear, but she stood beside him anyway. "See," the officer said. "It does what you tell it. A well-trained beast. Now hand it over." "She," David said firmly. "Her name is Ryla, and she is not a beast." He turned to Ryla. Tell them what you know." Ryla's voice trembled. "What should I say?" "Anything. Show them you can think." The officer laughed openly now. "Making it speak does not prove intelligence. Many animals can be taught simple words." David grabbed a broken engine from his workbench and held it up. "Ryla, what is wrong with this?" She looked at the engine. Her fear faded slightly as she focused on the machine. "The power coupling is cracked. The fuel line is blocked. And someone installed the cooling fan backwards. It would overheat in minutes." David smiled and looked at the officer. "Is that something a beast would say?" The officer's expression did not change. "Tricks prove nothing. Perhaps you taught it those words." "I did not teach her anything about this engine. She looked at it just now and understood it perfectly. She is smarter than most people I have ever met. And you want to sell her to criminals. What I want does not matter. The law says Dragonkin are property. Your feelings cannot change galactic law. Then galactic law is wrong." David's shout echoed across the salvage yard. The watching workers shifted uncomfortably. Some of them started walking toward David's workshop. Old Man Peters was the first to speak. "The human is right. I have seen many terrible things in this galaxy, but selling children is where I draw my line." A woman named Sarah stepped forward. "My daughter was saved from slavers by humans 20 years ago. I owe them a debt I can never repay. I stand with David." More salvagers joined them, humans and aliens alike, forming a line between David and the enforcers. The officer looked at the growing crowd with irritation. "You are all making a serious mistake. Interfering with galactic commerce is a crime." "Then arrest us all," David said. "But you will not touch this girl." For a long moment, nobody moved. The enforcers had weapons, but they were outnumbered. Killing civilians would create problems they did not want. Finally, the officer stepped back. "This is not over, human. We will return with more authority and more soldiers. Enjoy your small victory while it lasts." The enforcers turned and marched back to their ship. As they lifted off, David felt Ryla grab his hand. Her claws were shaking. "They will come back," she whispered. "They always come back." David looked at the people who had stood with him. Some were already walking away, returning to their work. But they had stood up when it mattered. That meant something. "Yes, they will come back," David said. "But we will not be here when they do." Ryla looked up at him. "Where will we go?" "I do not know yet. But I have friends who might help. And I have an idea for something that might let us travel safely." He squeezed her hand gently. We need to finish that environmental suit. Can you help me? Ryla nodded slowly. The fear was still in her eyes, but something else was there too. Trust. I will help you, she said. You are the first person who ever asked me to help instead of ordering me to serve. David smiled sadly. Get used to it. Humans are strange that way. They walked back into the workshop together. They had 3 days, maybe 4, before the enforcers returned with a bigger force. That was not much time to build a ship and a plan, but David had built miracles from garbage before. This time, he just needed to build a future. Ryla had never used her fire for anything good before. Her whole life, people only wanted her flames for destruction, for hurting, for killing. But now David asked her to weld metal, to heat components, to shape their future with the same breath that had been used as a weapon. It felt strange. It felt wonderful. They worked without sleep for 2 days. David designed and Ryla built. Their hands moved together like they had known each other for years instead of weeks. The workshop filled with sparks and smoke and the sound of machines coming to life. The environmental suit was almost finished. It wrapped around Ryla's body like a second skin, reading her temperature and adjusting itself automatically. When she breathed fire, the suit absorbed the extra heat and stored it as power. When she felt cold, it released warmth to keep her comfortable. It works, David said, checking the readings. Your heat output is perfectly stable. The suit is running at full power. Ryla flexed her claws inside the suit's gloves. It feels like part of me, not like armor, like skin. That was the idea. You and the suit help each other. Symbiosis. She looked at him with her golden eyes. Why did you design it this way? Most people would make something that controls me, forces me to behave. David set down his tools. Because you are not my prisoner. You are my partner. Partners help each other. Ryla was quiet for a moment. Then she asked something that had been bothering her since she woke up in his workshop. David, why did you really save me? The truth. He leaned against his workbench and thought about the question. When I was young, I read many stories about heroes. People who stood up against evil even when they were scared. I always wanted to be like them. But for most of my life, I was just a regular person fixing machines. Then I found you, and I had a choice. Walk away or do something. I chose to do something. But you could die. The enforcers will kill you for protecting me. Maybe. But some things are worth dying for. Ryla did not understand. Her whole life, she had been taught that survival was everything. Stay quiet. Obey orders. Do not fight back. Survive another day. The idea that someone would risk their life for a stranger seemed impossible. Tell me about humans, she said. Tell me why you are this way. David smiled and began talking while they worked. He told her about Earth, a small planet with dangerous weather and predators. He told her about human history, full of wars and mistakes, but also full of people fighting for freedom. He told her about slavery on Earth and how humans had fought to end it. Your people ended slavery, Ryla asked. We tried. It took a long time, and we are still not perfect. But we keep trying. That is what matters. Ryla touched the scar on her wrist where the chains had been. My people were powerful once. Before the coalition hunted us. Tell me about them. She hesitated. The memories were painful, passed down from older prisoners during her years in captivity. Dragonkin built great cities. We made machines that could do impossible things. Other species were jealous. They said we were too powerful, too dangerous. So they joined together and destroyed everything. The survivors were hunted, captured, sold. Our knowledge was lost. Maybe not all of it, David said gently. You understood my machines without any training. That knowledge might be inside you, waiting to be remembered. Ryla looked at her claws. Fire danced between her fingers, controlled and precise. I remember feeling sometimes, like I have done things before, in another life. Building, creating, making beautiful things. Then we will make beautiful things together. They returned to work. Hours passed. The scout ship in David's garage slowly came back to life. Ryla's suit powered its systems while David repaired the engines. They built a better translator that connected to Ryla's neural patterns, making her speech clearer and faster. By the end of the second day, they had something incredible. A ship that could fly, powered partly by Ryla's own body heat. A suit that made her comfortable anywhere in the galaxy. And a partnership that neither of them expected. It is ready, David said, looking at their work. We can leave whenever we want. Ryla stood beside him, wearing her new suit. She looked stronger than before, more confident. Where will we go? Anywhere but here. We will figure out the rest later. She nodded, then did something that surprised them both. She hugged him. Her scales pressed against his chest, warm through the suit. Thank you, she whispered, for seeing me as a person. David hugged her back carefully. Thank you for trusting me. A loud alarm broke the moment. David ran to his window and looked at the sky. Ships were dropping from orbit. Many ships. The enforcers had returned, and they had brought an army. David, Old Man Peters shouted from outside. They are landing at the main dock. At least 50 soldiers. David turned to Ryla. Her scales had turned pale again, but she did not run. She stood her ground, waiting for his lead. Get to the ship, David said. I will be right behind you. No. Ryla's voice was firm. We leave together or not at all. That is what partners do. David wanted to argue, but there was no time. He grabbed his bag of emergency tools, and they ran toward the garage. The hunt had begun. Fire erupted across the salvage yard as David and Ryla ran between mountains of broken ships. Enforcement soldiers spread through the junk piles like insects, their weapons ready to kill anything that moved. There, a soldier shouted. I see the dragonkin. Energy blasts tore through the air above their heads. David pulled Ryla behind a crashed transport, breathing hard. The garage is 200 meters away, he said. Too far. They will cut us down before we reach it. Ryla looked at the soldiers moving closer. There were so many of them. Her old instincts screamed at her to give up, to surrender, to accept her fate. That was how she had survived before, by not fighting. But David was not giving up. He was already pulling devices from his bag, assembling something with shaking hands. What are you building? She asked. Smoke screen. It will give us cover, but only for a few seconds. He looked at her seriously. When I throw this, we run. Do not stop for anything. David, there are too many. You should leave me. Save yourself. He grabbed her shoulders. Listen to me. I am not leaving you. We survive together or not at all. Understand. Ryla felt tears forming in her eyes. No one had ever refused to abandon her before. I understand, she whispered, David through the device. Gray smoke exploded outward, filling the air between them and the soldiers. They ran. The garage was closer than it seemed. David had chosen its location carefully, near a quick escape route. They burst through the door just as the smoke began to clear. Their ship sat waiting. It was ugly, built from salvaged parts and held together with hope. But it was theirs. Get inside, David shouted. Ryla climbed into the cockpit while David sealed the door. The engines hummed to life, powered by her body heat flowing through the environmental suit. The ship shook as it lifted off the ground. Then something hit them. Hard. The ship spun sideways and crashed back down. Alarm screamed. David struggled with the controls while smoke filled the cockpit. Engine 2 is gone, he said. We cannot fly with only one engine. Ryla felt cold fear grip her heart. They were trapped. The soldiers would be here in moments. Everything they built, everything they planned, was falling apart. Then she remembered what David had taught her. Partners help each other. Use my fire, she said. What? The second engine. I can heat it directly. My flames can replace the power it lost. David stared at her. That could kill you. The heat output required would be massive. I do not care. We leave together or not at all. You said it yourself. Before he could argue, Ryla pressed her hands against the engine access panel. She closed her eyes and let her fire flow. Heat poured from her body, more than she had ever released before. The suit absorbed some of it, but most went straight into the damaged engine. Pain shot through her arms. Her vision blurred. But she did not stop. The engine roared back to life. The ship lifted again, this time faster. David pulled them up through the smoke and into the sky. Enforcement ships chased them. Energy blasts exploded around their hull. David flew like a man possessed, dodging through floating debris and broken satellites. Almost there, he said. Just hold on, Ryla. The hyperspace jump point is close. Ryla could barely hear him. The fire was taking everything she had. Her scales were starting to crack from the heat. But she kept pushing, kept burning, kept fighting. Below them, she heard a familiar voice through the communication channel. Old Man Peters. Go, David. We are blocking their pursuit ships. Give that girl a real life. Other voices joined him. Sarah. The workers who had stood with them. They were using their own ships to slow down the enforcers, buying David and Ryla precious seconds. What? Ryla gasped. They barely know us. David smiled through his tears. Because that is what humans do. We fight for each other. Even strangers. Even when it hurts. The hyperspace jump point appeared ahead of them. A shimmering circle of light that promised safety. One more blast hit their ship. Sparks flew from the control panel. David was burned on his arm, but he did not let go of the controls. Now, Ryla. Everything you have. She screamed and released every bit of fire in her body. The engine blazed with power. The ship shot forward like a bullet. They hit the jump point, and everything turned white. When Ryla opened her eyes, they were floating in empty space. No enforcers. No junkyard planet. Just stars stretching endlessly in every direction. She pulled her hands from the engine panel. Her arms were covered in burns, and her whole body shook with exhaustion. But she was alive. They both were. David slumped in his chair, breathing heavily. Blood dripped from his burned arm, but he was smiling. We made it, he said. We actually made it. Ryla tried to speak, but no words came. Instead, she started crying. Not from sadness, but from something she had never felt before. Relief. Joy. Hope. David reached over and took her hand gently, avoiding her burns. Rest now, he said. We are safe, and I know somewhere we can go. Somewhere nobody will find us. The ship's communication panel blinked. An incoming message from an unknown source. David opened it, and a voice spoke in a language Ryla had not heard since childhood. Dragonkin. Someone was speaking the language of her people. Human who stood against the galaxy, the voice said. We have heard what you did. Bring the young one to us. We will give you shelter. Coordinates appeared on the screen. David looked at Ryla. What do you want to do? For the first time in her life, someone asked her what she wanted. I want to find my people, she said. David smiled and set the course. The asteroid station appeared through the viewing window like a jewel hidden among rocks. Lights glowed in patterns that Ryla did not recognize, but somehow understood. Symbols of her people, carved into metal and powered by technology she had only dreamed about. Their battered ship limped toward the docking bay. David had bandaged his burned arm, and Ryla's scales were slowly healing. They looked like survivors of a war, which in many ways they were. I never thought I would see this, Ryla whispered. Dragonkin living free. David said nothing. He was letting her have this moment. This first glimpse of a home she never knew existed. The docking bay opened, and they landed gently. When the ship's door opened, Ryla saw them waiting. Dragonkin of all ages and colors, their scales shining in the artificial light. Elders with white scales stood at the front, their golden eyes filled with wisdom and caution. Ryla stepped out first. Her legs were shaking. She felt like a child meeting her parents for the first time. One elder stepped forward. She was ancient, her scales cracked with age, but still beautiful. She looked at Ryla with an expression of deep sadness and joy mixed together. Young one, the elder said in the Dragonkin language. We thought all the children were lost. Ryla could not speak. Tears ran down her face as the elder embraced her gently. David waited by the ship, not wanting to interrupt. But the elder noticed him and pulled away from Ryla. You are the human, she said, switching to common galactic language. The one who defied the enforcers. I did what was right, David said simply. The elder studied him with her ancient eyes. Do you know what you have started, human? The galaxy considers Dragonkin property. By protecting one of us, you have made enemies of powerful forces. I know. And yet you came here, to our hidden home, knowing we might not welcome you. David nodded. Ryla wanted to find her people. Where she goes, I go. The elder was silent for a long moment. Then she smiled, showing teeth that were worn but still sharp. Humans, she said. We have heard stories about your species. Stubborn creatures who feel too much and think with their hearts instead of their heads. We thought the stories were exaggerated. They probably are not, David admitted. The elder laughed. It was a warm sound, like fire crackling in a safe place. Come inside, both of you. You are guests here. And perhaps, in time, something more. The station was larger than it appeared from outside. Hundreds of Dragonkin lived in carved tunnels and open chambers, building, creating, living free. Ryla walked among them with wonder on her face. For the first time, she was not the only one. She was not strange or different or dangerous. She was home. David watched her transformation with quiet joy. The frightened girl he had found in chains was disappearing. In her place stood someone confident, curious, alive. Over the following days, the Dragonkin shared their history with David. They had once built civilizations across the galaxy. Their technology was advanced beyond anything most species could imagine. But jealousy and fear had united their enemies against them. The war lasted centuries. In the end, the Dragonkin lost everything except their lives and their knowledge. "We have been hiding ever since," the elder explained. "Surviving in secret, preserving what we could, hoping for a future we might never see." "What kind of future?" David asked. "One where we can live openly again, where we are not hunted or sold or killed for our parts." The elder looked at him with ancient sadness. "We do not have the strength to fight alone. We need allies." David understood what she was asking. "You want humans to help you. You already helped one of us. Word is spreading. Other refugees are talking about the human who stood against the galaxy for a Dragonkin child. Some of them want to meet you." Ryla appeared beside David. Her burns had healed completely, and she was wearing traditional Dragonkin clothing that the elders had given her. She looked like a different person. Stronger, prouder. "I want to build something," she said. "Something that can protect our people. David, will you help me?" He smiled. "Always." They began working together again, but this time with resources and knowledge that had been hidden for generations. Dragonkin engineers joined them, sharing ancient techniques. Human creativity combined with Dragonkin precision in ways nobody had imagined possible. Months passed. Their first project was completed. A ship designed to be piloted by human and Dragonkin together, using both species' strengths. It was beautiful and powerful, a symbol of what partnership could achieve. More humans arrived at the station. Scientists, engineers, doctors, people who had heard the story and wanted to help. The hidden community began to grow on the day they unveiled their ship. Ryla stood before the gathered crowd. Humans and Dragonkin side by side, watching her with hope in their eyes. "I was born in chains," she said. "I knew only fear and pain. I thought I would die as property, forgotten and alone." She looked at David standing beside her. "Then one human chose to see me as a person. He gave me freedom. He gave me purpose. He gave me family." She turned back to the crowd. "Today we build something new. Not just a ship, but a future. A future where no child of any species is ever chained again." The crowd cheered. David felt tears on his face but did not wipe them away. Later, when the celebration was over, Ryla gave David a small device. It showed a hologram of her homeworld, recreated from ancient records. A planet of mountains and fire and endless possibility. "Someday," she said, "I will show you this world for real." David looked at the hologram, then at her. "And someday, I will show you Earth." They stood together, human and Dragonkin, looking at stars that suddenly seemed full of promise. The galaxy had tried to break them. Instead, it had made them family.